Right now, as you're watching this, there's a voice in your head that's been running your entire life, and you probably don't even realize it exists. It's not the voice you use when you speak to others. It's deeper, more constant, more powerful. And here's what might shock you. This voice has been secretly sabotaging every dream, every goal, every manifestation you've ever attempted. But what if I told you that by the end of this video, you'll not only hear this voice clearly for the first time, but you'll know exactly how to transform it into the most powerful manifestation tool you've ever possessed. Most people spend years trying to manifest their desires through visualization, affirmations, and endless techniques, never understanding that there's something happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's either supporting or destroying everything they're trying to create. This isn't about what you say out loud to the world. This isn't about the mantras you repeat or the vision boards you create. This is about the constant, unfiltered conversation happening inside your consciousness every single moment you're alive, even while you sleep. The ancient text tells us, "In the beginning was the Word," but that word isn't what most people think it is. It's not some divine proclamation echoing through the cosmos. The Word is your internal dialogue, the endless stream of thoughts, assumptions, doubts, and beliefs that flow through your mind like an underground river, shaping the landscape of your reality in ways you've never imagined. Every circumstance in your life right now, every relationship, every financial situation, every health condition, they're all echoes of this internal conversation you've been having with yourself for years. Think about this for a moment. When you wake up tomorrow morning, before you even open your eyes, your mind will already be talking. It might be rehearsing your problems, planning your day, or replaying yesterday's frustrations. That voice starts speaking the moment consciousness returns, and it doesn't stop until you fall asleep at night. In fact, it continues even then, processing and creating through your dreams. This voice is the true architect of your experience, and most people have handed over the blueprints without even realizing they have a choice in what gets built. But here's where it gets fascinating, and this is something that neuroscience is just beginning to understand. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what you experience externally and what you experience internally through your thoughts and imagination. When you have a conversation in your mind, the same neural networks fire as if you were having that conversation in real life. When you imagine a scenario, your brain creates the same neurochemical responses as if that scenario were actually happening. This means your internal dialogue isn't just commentary on your life, it's literally creating the neurological foundation for what you'll experience next. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has shown us that our thoughts produce chemicals, and these chemicals become the raw materials for our emotions. But it goes even deeper than that. These thought-generated emotions create electromagnetic fields around our bodies, and these fields interact with the quantum field of infinite possibilities that surrounds us. Your internal dialogue isn't just affecting your brain chemistry. It's broadcasting a frequency into the universe, and that frequency is what determines what you attract into your experience. Now, most people's internal dialogue sounds something like this. A mixture of worry about the future, regret about the past, criticism about themselves and others, rehearsal of problems, and a constant stream of what-if scenarios that rarely involve positive outcomes. They wake up and immediately start thinking about their bills, their relationships, their health problems, their work stress. They mentally rehearse conversations they need to have, usually imagining conflict or difficulty. They replay conversations they've already had, often focusing on what went wrong or what they should have said differently. This type of internal dialogue creates a very specific electromagnetic signature, one of lack, fear, stress, and limitation. And because the quantum field responds to the frequency of our being, not the desires of our thinking, this is exactly what gets reflected back to them in their external reality. They're not manifesting what they want, they're manifesting what they are, based on the dominant emotional state created by their internal conversation. But what happens when someone becomes conscious of this process and begins to deliberately change their internal dialogue? What happens when they stop being a victim of their automatic thoughts and start becoming the architect of their inner conversation? This is where the magic begins, and this is where science meets spirituality in the most profound way. When you change your internal dialogue, you're not just changing what you think about. You're changing who you are at the most fundamental level. You're changing your brain structure through neuroplasticity. You're changing your body chemistry through psychoneuroimmunology. You're changing your electromagnetic field through heart-brain coherence. And you're changing what you attract from the quantum field through the law of attraction operating at the deepest levels of reality. The beautiful thing about this transformation is that it doesn't require you to change anything external first. You don't need to wait for your circumstances to improve before you can change your internal dialogue. In fact, it's the opposite. Your circumstances will remain exactly as they are until your internal dialogue changes, because your external world is simply a reflection of your internal state of being. Let me share with you what this looks like in practice, because understanding the theory is only the beginning. True transformation happens when you begin to apply these principles in real time, moment by moment, throughout your day. The first step is becoming aware of what your internal dialogue actually sounds like. Most people have never really listened to their own thoughts with conscious awareness. They're so identified with their thinking that they don't realize they can observe it, question it, and ultimately change it. For the next few minutes, I want you to simply notice what your mind is doing right now as you watch this video. Is it completely focused on what I'm saying, or is it multitasking, thinking about other things while trying to listen? Is it judging what you're hearing, comparing it to other things you've learned, or wondering if this will actually work for you? Is it planning what you'll do after this video ends, or thinking about something that happened earlier today? There's no right or wrong answer here, just awareness. This awareness is the foundation of everything that follows, because you cannot change what you're not conscious of. Most people's internal dialogue runs on autopilot, following the same patterns they developed years or even decades ago. These patterns were usually formed during times of stress, trauma, or emotional intensity, which means they're often based on fear, lack, and limitation rather than love, abundance, and possibility. The next step is understanding that your internal dialogue doesn't just reflect your reality, it creates it. Every thought you think sends a signal to your nervous system, telling it how to respond. If your internal dialogue is focused on problems, your nervous system will activate stress responses, releasing cortisol and adrenaline, which put your body in survival mode. In survival mode, your brain's executive functions shut down, your immune system is suppressed, and your ability to access creativity, intuition, and higher states of consciousness is severely limited. But when your internal dialogue is focused on possibilities, gratitude, love, and the feeling of your desires already being fulfilled, your nervous system activates healing responses, releasing oxytocin, dopamine, and other chemicals that support health, creativity, and expanded awareness. In this state, you become a magnet for synchronicities, opportunities, and experiences that align with your elevated emotional state. This is why simply changing your external circumstances without changing your internal dialogue rarely leads to lasting transformation. You might get a new job, a new relationship, or more money, but if your internal dialogue remains the same, you'll eventually recreate the same patterns in new situations. The job will become stressful, the relationship will have problems, and the money will create new worries. This is because the external world is not the source of your experience, your internal state is. Now, here's where most people make a crucial mistake when they first learn about the power of internal dialogue. They try to force their thoughts to be positive, to suppress negative thoughts, or to constantly monitor and control every thought that arises. This approach usually backfires because it creates internal conflict and resistance. When you fight with your thoughts, you give them more energy and attention, which often makes them stronger and more persistent. Instead of fighting with your thoughts, the key is to change your identity at such a fundamental level that new thoughts arise naturally. When you truly embody the feeling of already being the person who has what you desire, your internal dialogue changes spontaneously to match that new identity. You don't have to force positive thoughts. They emerge organically from your elevated state of being. This is what Dr. Dispenza means when he talks about becoming someone new. It's not about adopting new behaviors or saying different words. It's about shifting your core identity so completely that your thoughts, feelings, and actions automatically align with your new sense of self. When you are abundant, you naturally think abundant thoughts. When you are loved, you naturally think loving thoughts. When you are healthy, you naturally think healthy thoughts. But how do you make this shift in identity when your current circumstances seem to contradict the identity you want to embody? This is where the power of imagination becomes crucial. Your brain cannot tell the difference between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. When you create a detailed internal experience of already having what you desire, complete with the emotions and sensations of that reality, your brain forms new neural networks that support that new identity. The key is to make your imagined reality more real and more emotionally compelling than your current circumstances. This requires practice, consistency, and a deep understanding of how to work with your brain's natural plasticity. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that thought. Every time you feel an emotion, you reinforce the chemical patterns that create that emotion. This means that with conscious practice, you can literally rewire your brain to default to thoughts and feelings that support your desired reality. One of the most powerful times to work with your internal dialogue is in the moments just before you fall asleep and just after you wake up. During these times, your brain is in a theta state, which is the same brainwave frequency associated with deep meditation, hypnosis, and accelerated learning. In theta, your conscious mind's critical faculty is relaxed, making your subconscious mind much more receptive to new programming. Instead of falling asleep to thoughts of worry, problems, or tomorrow's challenges, you can use this sacred time to imagine and feel the reality of your dreams already fulfilled. Instead of waking up to immediate stress about your day ahead, you can begin each morning by connecting with the emotions of gratitude, excitement, and anticipation that come from living your desired life. This practice of conscious internal dialogue isn't just about manifesting external things. It's about fundamentally transforming who you are as a human being. As you consistently align your thoughts and emotions with love, joy, peace, and abundance, you begin to embody these qualities in every aspect of your life. You become someone who naturally attracts positive experiences because you're radiating positive energy. You become someone who solves problems easily because you're thinking from a higher level of consciousness. You become someone who experiences miracles regularly because you're living in harmony with the quantum field of infinite possibilities. The most profound realization in this journey is that you are not a victim of your thoughts. You are their creator. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are their architect. You are not limited by your past. You are empowered by your present moment awareness and your ability to choose new thoughts, new emotions, and new possibilities in every moment. As you begin to implement these principles, you'll notice that your relationship with yourself begins to change. The internal critic that may have dominated your inner dialogue for years begins to quiet down, replaced by a voice of encouragement, possibility, and love. The constant mental chatter about problems and limitations gives way to creative thinking about solutions and opportunities. The heavy emotions of fear, anger, and sadness begin to transform into lighter emotions of joy, peace, and excitement. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it can begin right now with your very next thought. You have the power to choose what you think about, how you interpret your experiences, and what emotional state you cultivate in each moment. This power is not dependent on your circumstances, your past, or what other people do or say. It's an inherent capacity of consciousness itself, and it's always available to you. Your internal dialogue is the bridge between your current reality and your desired reality. It's the invisible force that either keeps you stuck in old patterns or propels you toward new possibilities. It's the creative power that shapes your brain, your body, your energy field, and ultimately, your life experience. And now that you understand this power, the question isn't whether you can transform your life. The question is how quickly you'll begin to use this knowledge to create the reality you truly desire. The voice in your head that's been running your life is ready to become your greatest ally in creating the life of your dreams. All it takes is conscious awareness, consistent practice, and the courage to step into a new version of yourself. Your future self is already calling to you through your highest thoughts and feelings. Are you ready to answer that call and begin the most important conversation of your life, the one that will literally reshape your reality from the inside out?